Hello and welcome everyone to Sage's Tabletop Table Talks. I'm Sage, this is my table, and I'm going to talk to you about tabletop role-playing games. So, once again, because you guys can read and you clicked on the video, you know that I am going to be talking about Palladium Fantasy Role-Playing, the 2nd edition, which I'm pretty sure all this one did was remove homosexuality as an insanity. I'm not sure what all differences there are between 1st and 2nd edition, but Kevin Symbieta, the man who wrote this book, is very tied to the way his mechanics work, and he doesn't really change anything. But what is this game? The best way I can describe it is, imagine Dungeons and Dragons, around the between 1st and 2nd edition, but written by a madman. The art. I like the art. The art, it's very, basic. Not basic. It's super, simple, but also, really detailed. The art in this book is fantastic. And I know there's a bunch of different artists in here. Here's a ranger. This is what our ranger looks like that. He's got kind of this, hangdog look to his face, but that's fantastic. That, to me, that looks like a ranger, not this dude with, 7 bows and 18 quivers of arrows and 4 gold chains and armor that's got weird arcane runes all over it. All this assassin's a little overdone, but yeah, paladin like that. Got a little bit of that midriff showing, but I guess that was the style at the time. But that's a good paladin. That is a good paladin picture of a paladin. They don't need spiked pauldrons all over. But what is this game? It's Dungeons and Dragons if written by a madman. Of course, so it's kind of an interesting fantasy world. There's almost like a he has some really interesting kind of character types in it, like Wolven, which are wolf people and stuff like that. Oh, where is it? I gotta find it. Ah, here it is. Okay. Oh, there's something I have to read verbatim, but anyway, so I thought that's what I described. So how it works is you have 8 core stats instead of the normal 6, and they are IQ, which governs skill bonuses. They are mental affinity, which it gives you a charm boost. Mental endurance, which gives you a willpower boost. There is, let's see, IQ, physical strength, which it kind of gives you damage bonus. Physical prowess, which is your dexterity, gives you 2 hit and dodge bonuses. Oh man, what one am I missing? Physical endurance, which is the only stat that you really need to worry about in-game unless you roll exceptionally high. If it governs hit points, it also governs PPE, and we'll get into what PPE is. Physical beauty, because you gotta have physical beauty. I don't know what it is about these. This game isn't really OSR, because it was written in 1980 something, 1981, 1982, something like that. But physical beauty's in it, and then SPD, which is how fast you run. But I very much described it when so the game I'm currently running, which sadly I haven't been able to actually play in quite some time, but it's Palladium 2nd edition fantasy. Because I like to try out these systems. I like to play with these systems, and I kind of like to see where evolution in gaming goes, And even though the game's old, it's a functional system. It's not great. I hate to say it, but I actually would prefer to play a Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition over this. But it has a lot of really cool ideas in it. But I always describe people, I'm like, okay, so what you do is you roll your stats, which is IQ, PB, PE, PS, SPD, MA, ME, and I don't remember what the order of it. And so the stats will determine what OOC you can apply for. And the only stat that really matters is PE because it determines your HP, your STC, and of course your PPE. Um, and it's all these initials, and it's very like, kind of people like, whoa, but it all really makes sense. Your OOC is just your class. It's OOC stands for Occupational Character Class. Now there are RCCs, Racial Character Classes, and the idea there is that dragons or, you know, demons don't go out and learn how to be paladins and mercenaries and wizards. They're just dragons and demons. And then PCC are psychic character classes, which are just OCCs. There's no real important variance between a psychic and non-psychic. However, any character has a chance to be psychic. You roll D percentile, and it's something like 25%. I don't remember the exact number. But if you use a 25% chance, something like that, of you being psychic. But anyway, so you have these stats, and I didn't make my players roll in order. It doesn't really say if you roll in order or not in the book. Because I've heard people say that you don't have to roll in order. However, I have noticed that some of the races have differing stats. So, for example, orcs, they don't roll 3d6. You roll 3d6. Orcs don't roll 3d6 for IQ, mental endurance. They roll 2d6. And their physical endurance is 3d6 plus 2. And their physical strength is 3d6 plus 8. So I guess you would have to roll in order if you're not playing a human. But I made everyone, they weren't all humans. I let everyone roll 3d6. And then I kind of just let them have little bonuses to kind of flavor out their character. So one of my players wanted to be a changeling. So I just gave him an extra little bonus that he can do very minor shape-shifting. One of my players wanted to be a dwarf, so I gave him some of those like dwarf, like dark vision, things like that. But yeah, so the game does have you roll 3d6 for every stat. So what do those numbers mean? Nothing. That's one of the interesting things about Palladium is unless you roll a 16 or better, your stats mean nothing. What's the difference between a 3 and a 15 IQ? Nothing. There is no difference between having a 3 IQ and a 15 IQ. One of the interesting things about Palladium is it kind of explodes on stats. If you roll a 16, you roll an additional d6 and add that to your stat. And then if that's a 6, you roll again. I think that's it. Let's see, so it's 18 and then 6. Yeah, because the max you can reach for a normal human is 30, and that's exceptional. Once you reach a 16 in a stat, you start getting bonuses. So if you rolled a 16 and then rolled a 2, so you have an 18 in a stat, now might be the time to kind of consider where you want that stat to be, because you might want it to be in physical strength to give you that boost to damage, or you might want it to be in, you know, maybe IQ, because you want to have, because IQ grants you all of your skills will get a slight boost if your IQ is high enough. It's a one-time boost. It doesn't go up all the time, but generally speaking, the only stat that actually matters is physical endurance, because that's going to determine your hit points and your STC. No, just your hit points. So what is hit points and STC? I've talked about this in my healing video, my healing and health video before. But generally speaking, in Palladium, you have 2 health tracks. You have SDC, or structural damage capacity, and hit points, which is damage. Objects have SDC and no hit points. So door has SDC, And when you hit it, it deals SDC damage until it reaches 0, in which case it no longer functions as a door. The idea of SDC in Palladium is SDC is kind of like your ability, and I think it's backwards because when you level up, you don't gain SDC, but you gain hit points. But the idea of SDC is kind of your ability to shrug off damage. So, you know, when John Wick gets thrown through glass and he stands up and brushes himself off, that would be SDC damage. Now, if you get a deep wound, like that is actually dangerous, that's hit points. Fighters get 3d6 SDC at first level. Non-fighters get 1d6. There are ways to build it up when I get into how skills in this game work, because skills are actually really interesting, and there's some really, really cool ideas at the heart of it. But yeah, so... And then every level, every character, no matter what, gets 1d6 hit points. It does matter in Palladium Fantasy, but generally speaking, in a lot of the Rifts universes, it doesn't. Because there's this thing called mega damage. So if you do 1 mega damage, it does 1,000 normal SDC hit point damage. So, like, characters get, like, MDC, like, swords that do 3 MDC. But that's 3,000 damage. That's just going to turn people into smears on the wall. Like, and then, of course, they also, like, so I think there's one, like... Heroes Unlimited is the Rift's superhero game, where I think certain characters can get MDC health instead of SDC health, or on top of. I'm not sure exactly how it works. I actually don't have a copy of Heroes Unlimited, but, yeah, but generally, like, Palladium Fantasy, I don't really use MDC. But anyway, the other reason to have stats in certain places is it does the thing where certain classes are gated by stat bonuses. Like, I got the Paladin here. So the Paladin has to have 10 IQ, 12 physical strength, 12 physical prowess, and 10 physical endurance in order to qualify for the Paladin. I don't like that. I've never liked that. And when I did, I just let players play what they wanted to play. That does lead to kind of some unfortunate things when I get into some of these classes I will talk about. But, yeah. So you roll, and then you get your alignments. And this is my favorite. There are parts of this book that are not a game. They are just, like, Kevin Smeda's weird vlogs before vlogs existed. So it talks about alignments. At its core, there are 3 core alignments with little sub-alignments inside. You have good, which are principled and scrupulous. Selfish, which is unprincipled and anarchist. Or my friends are like, man, the unprincipled alignment really is kind of principled. Then evil, which is miscreant, aberrant, and diabolic. And generally speaking, players won't play diabolic because they are just like fuck off evil. But like when they have alignments, so the good alignment here, it'll say principled, so principled, good. Principled characters will always keep their word, avoid lies, never kill or attack an unarmed foe, never harm the innocent, never torture for any reason, things like that. They all have these little things. However, those of you who've played Dungeons & Dragons might have noticed something missing. There's good, there's selfish, and there's evil. Law and chaos is a dumb metric for alignment anyway. And there kind of is here. Because the principled is basically lawful good, and scrupulous is basically chaotic good. Because it says things like, will keep his word to other good people, lie only to people of selfish or evil alignments, never attack, harm, or kill an unarmed foe, never harm an innocent, never torture for pleasure, but may use muscle to extract information from criminals or evil characters. So basically, principled is lawful good and scrupulous is chaotic good. Once again, you might notice something missing. There's a little paragraph, and I want to read this verbatim because this is one of the most beautiful things I've ever read in a um, game book. It's such a odd. I agree. I actually agree, but it's such an odd hill to die on. Neutral. First of all, there is no such thing as absolute or true neutral. All people tend toward good, evil, or self-gratification. An absolute true neutral could not make a decision, go on an adventure, kill or take any action of any kind without leaning toward good, evil, or self-gratification. It is humanly impossible and is, therefore, eliminated from the context of this game. I realize that some philosophers out there may disagree with this, but that's a topic for philosophical debate and not a factor of this game. Sorry, no neutrals. I agree. True neutral is a bullshit alignment that shouldn't exist. It is dumb. But, like, it's such a weird hill to die on. And, Kevin, I will stand on this hill with you. I will die on this hill with you about neutral characters. Neutrality is not a real alignment. Like, the idea of neutral good, a character who just does good for good. But, like, a true neutrality, yeah, no, that a true neutral character would just not function. Yeah, I love that. I love that little part. So you pick your alignment. So generally what you do now is, so you've rolled your stats, and pick your race. Like I said, I just use the human template and let the players kind of play with, not the stats, but like special attributes. You roll to see if you're psionic, which can prohibit you from the psionic character classes, because if you're playing a psionic character class, you have to have natural psionics. I waive that as well. So one of my players plays a psionic character. But you pick your OOC, your occupational character class, which will kind of do what D&D does. Now, with some exceptions, like the wizard, one of the things I adore about the OOCs in this game is, generally speaking, all the cool shit your character can do, you can do at level 1. At level 1, paladins get, see, I'll find the men at arms, because they're separated by what they are. There's, priests, which have your priest of light, priest of darkness, warrior monk, which is kind of a paladin-y kind of character. They're really cool. I actually really like the warrior monk in this game. And the druid, which of course does the fucking druid thing where they all have to beat each other up and trade hats. It's like, oh, you're a level 12 druid and you want to be a level 13 druid? Well, you gotta beat another druid up and take his reindeer hat and give him your raccoon hat. Now you're level 13 and he's level 12. And like I said, if you want to play some kind of weird rival schools game, that's awesome, but it's such a dumb thing to include in your game about epic heroes. Like, are you just, like, leaving a dungeon and then all of a sudden some dude with, like, a fucking, you know, pig hat comes up to you and is like, you, give me your cow hat because I'm level 11 and I want to be level 12. I don't remember because it's a joke. They don't actually, like, tell you what hats they wear. OSR people, if you're gonna do this dumb druid shit, let us know at every level what stupid hat they wear. Is it a reindeer? Is it a fucking pig? Is it a wolf skin cap? Like, let us know, because, I mean, it's already a stupid mechanic. You might as well go full hog on the stupid, which I believe is a level 13. I believe full hog is level 13. But anyway, so, like, at level 1, the paladin gets, at the beginning, they automatically get their, horsemanship, their special techniques. They don't get lay hands on. I couldn't remember if they did or not. They do not get lay hands on. They get their special way of the lance, so they get a special technique they can use when wielding a spear. And then they get their Smite Evil. They call it the Demon's Death Blow. I fucking love the Demon Death Blow. I have taken this as inspiration for the Smite Evil in my personal game I'm designing because it does a thing. And this it does kind of give into another weird system where I believe the guys at System Master said Palladium is the only game system where every hour consists of 48 minutes. 4D 8 minutes. 4 8-sided dice minutes. Because everything in this game has to be randomly rolled. You cannot just have 5 of something. You have to have 1d10 of something. It's so weird. So to use the Demon Death Blow, you have to spend 3d6 PPE. So PPE is kind of your MP pool. All characters have PPE. Characters with more mystical abilities will get more. Like wizards get a huge amount. It's like 3d6 plus 10 times 20, or it might be 3d6 times 10 plus 20 PPE, and then an additional like 2d8 per something like that per level. It doesn't say what paladins get for PPE. Do they just not get PPE? That's so weird. Anyway, how the Paladin Demon Death Blow works is so they hit a target with their Demon Death Blow, Smite Evil. So they first of all, the attack does full damage regardless of resistance. So if you hit a target with your axe and they're resistant to slashing damage, you do full damage. Their resistance goes away. The attack is so devastating that the creature's body cannot bioregenerate energy. So bioregeneration is fast healing. I don't know what they call it in 5th edition, but in 3rd edition it was fast healing. So they would heal so many hit points on their turn. The attack turns that off. This makes it especially deadly for supernatural and magical beings. So yeah, I that is such a cool ability that you turn off their healing factor. And it's one of the things I do is I have it in my game. If you hit a supernatural evil character, an evil outsider, a demon, or an undead with it, it turns off all their supernatural resistances, any immunity, any resistances, any regenerations. Mine, I turn it off for 1 turn. Here they turn it off for 1d4 hours. But that's really just kind of a cool way to make your Smite Evil do more than just a little bit extra damage. But yeah, all that comes at level 1. And now, when you level up, like I said, you gain 1d6 hit points. And then you gain, every character in this game starts with a martial art. Some might start with, well, a handful don't start with a martial art. Hand-to-hand, which you just get basically, like, I think 1 attack. But there's 3, in this game, there are 3 hand-to-hand tracks. 4, sorry. Basic, expert, martial arts, which is what paladins have. And assassin, which isn't really that great. But you get so many skills. So for example, like the paladin, he starts with a handful of skills. He starts with dancing, heraldry, horsemanship, land navigation, some weapon proficiencies, and a hand-to-hand, and then but the wizard doesn't start with any. But what he can do is you get those skills, and then you'll get some other skills. So like the wizard gets 8 other skills he can choose from. And they're all categorized, like he can choose any from the communications category, any from the medical category. He can't pick any from the military category. He can take any from the physical category except acrobatics, gymnastics, broken, and wrestling. Boxing's broken. It grants you an additional attack per turn. Plus some other stuff, but I'll get into that when I start talking about your skills. but you can trade some those extra skill proficiencies to increase your hand to hand. And every time you level up, your hand to hand will give you something extra. It might give you an extra to hit. It might give you an extra to your parry. I don't like how parry works in this game, but once again, we'll get to it. There's a lot in this game to cover. But I think parry slows the game down. But yeah, but every level you'll get something for your martial art unless you don't have one, or your hand. Sorry, they call it hand to hand. Your hand to hand unless you have one. And like I said, you get some skills. One of the things I love about this game, I adore about this game, is how your weapon proficiencies work. So, the Warlock. Now, what the Warlock is they're an elementalist. See, there's a little Warlock. And they choose to align themselves with elemental spirits. Earth, air, fire, or water, and then they get spell lists from it. They are kind of... If you want to play a very traditional D&D wizard, you're probably best off picking Warlock. Wizards are weird and all over the place. Generally speaking, Warlocks will have certain, like, foci. Like, if you're a fire Warlock, a lot of your spells are just straight up going to do damage. And in the game, Wizards start with a spell that is not on their spell list. It's like Cloud of Slumber, I believe. Wizards don't have Cloud of Slumber in their spell list. You have to go to the Air Warlocks to get it. And Air Warlocks are kind of area of effect and kind of like... They kind of straddle buff and debuff. Water's kind of like aid and healing, and Earth is a lot of buffs and fortification. But yeah, so Warlocks have 14 different... Well, not really 14, because number 14 is just what color Warlocks are supposed to wear. But they have, like, probably about 12 abilities, and they all get them at level 1. Now, they might get more powerful. For example, you know, when you learn new spells, you get new spells every level. Your ability, like, one of the things they can do is they can tell if there's an elemental in the area at a 25% chance. And then every level that goes up by 5%. But generally speaking, you get all your cool shit at level 1. So, like, this idea of having to wait till level 12, a level you'll never reach in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, let's be honest, or even some of the really cool capstone abilities, like at level 18, 19, 20, you'll never see those abilities as a player character. So they might as well not exist, if we're being realistic. Here in Palladium, Fantasy, you just get all of that. A lot of them will get stronger as you level up, but you just get all your cool abilities. You get most of your cool abilities at level 1. Now, one of the things I love about this game, and my friend, Josh, whom, if you keep up with our shorts, me and him are kind of beefing right now, because he thinks that he's, he thinks I'm some invader to his channel, but we're gonna hash that shit out here in a couple weeks. I'm gonna see him face to face, and we're gonna take care of this the way it needs to be taken care of. But he played a wizard, and it has, so like the Warlock, the Wizard, all these characters, they get, weapon proficiencies. Now, of course, if you play Dungeons & Dragons, you know, wizards are proficient with, like, stabs and knives and darts and slings, and that's really about it. Here, the wizard has a weapon proficiency, 1 of choice. You pick whatever weapon you want. Let's all remember, Gandalf used a short sword. He had a staff, but really, he used a short sword. Why can't my wizard use a short sword? Why can't my wizard use a great sword? Why? So my friend picked spear. So it created this thing where we personalized his character. So the idea was he had a traditional wizard staff, you know, a staff with a crystal on the top. The crystal he had just happened to be a really fucking sharp. It just happened to be like a jagged point. And because it was enchanted, it didn't matter that it was crystal, it wasn't going to break. So he's just like, since I have this sharp crystal, I might as well be able to stick people with it. And it created a very unique flavor for his character. I don't think he ever actually needed to stab anybody with it, using spells. But the idea was there, and it's kind of a cool idea to be able to have a character who can be kind of creative like that. So that was kind of cool, and I really like that. I think that's a fun idea, and we need to stop shoehorning in certain character classes with certain weapons. Rogues, let the rogue use a greatsword. I don't see why not. Now, you need to play with that a little bit, because a rogue with a greatsword isn't going to be as effective as probably a fighter with a short sword. And the solution Palladium has is your martial arts. Wizards get 1 attack per turn, and that's all they get. Nothing else, unless they sacrifice usefulness of other skills in increasing their weapon abilities. Now, like the men-at-arms, like let's say your mercenary warrior or your soldier, they start with hand-to-hand expert, and then they can build that up to martial arts or assassin with one of their skills. Wizards cannot get martial arts, so that's that, or assassin, so they just can't maximize their the assassin one's not great. The big thing assassins get are kill shots, but the thing about a kill shot is, okay, so you get if you roll a 20, you kill the target outright. Here's the problem: is you have to declare the kill shot. You say, I'm using assassin's blow, and then you roll your d20. If it's not a 20, you miss. It kind of sucks. So that's why I said just Palladium's, the Paladin with 2 L's is just better. But yeah, so how skills work, generally speaking, is skills, you'll have a proficiency level. So you'll be proficient with, so here we go, here's one. And like I said, they're all kind of categorized, like communication and performing arts, domestic, which is like cooking and dancing and stuff like that. But yeah, here we go, cook. So you have your cook skill, right? So your cook, right there, cook. And you have it's hard to see, you have a starting skill of 30, and that plus 5, so you have a 30% bonus to your cooking. Your chance of making a proper meal is 30%. Every level that goes up by 5. So level 2, it'll be 35. At level 3, it'll be 40. To a maximum of 97, I believe. Because the idea is there's always a chance to fail no matter what you're doing. Arguable, but hey, whatever. Game mechanics, right? And you can modify the skills. You can say like, hey, this is particularly difficult. Subtract 20 from your skill percentage, because this is a particularly difficult task you're trying to do. However, there are physical skills. Now, these physical skills are weird. I kind of like them. I think that some games could use them, but how your physical skills work is, they're the physical category, and so you pick them like any other skills. You got physical, you pick them like any other skill. But if you'll notice here, acrobatics. So you get your percentages: 40% to find your sense of balance, 30% to walk a tightrope. However, look at that right there. +1 to roll with. So when you take a hit in this game, you can attempt to roll with your punches, which reduces damage by half. It is a difficult mechanic because it's one of those things that just slows. Combat in this game is far too fucking slow. I'm getting that when I talk about combat. But it's, what's it right there? +1 to your physical strength. So if you take this acrobatics, physical strength goes up by 1. Your physical prowess goes up by 1. Your physical endurance goes up by 1. And you roll a d6 and add that to your SDC. So, with your physical skills, and that's one of the things that your fighting man classes, your martial classes, which are the mercenary, the soldier, the paladin, the knight, the ranger, the thief, all these things have is they have massive collections of these physical skills they can choose from. Um, so like, yeah, you can just jack up. Like, I think the guy in my game who's playing a dwarf, his natural like foot speed is like 19 miles in dwarf, and he specifically did not prioritize the speed stat, but through all of his skills, he just kept going up and up and up. I think he runs at like maybe like 20, 25 miles per hour as his running speed, because they have a calculation for run speed in the game. But like, he is ridiculously fast because of the way the physical skills work and how they build on this. Like, your bodybuilding gives you 2 strength, 10, just straight 10 to your SDC. Boxing does give you 1 additional attack per round, which is insane. Because of how your attacks work. So let's just get into combat right now. But yeah, your physical skills, you can just jack your physical stats up immensely. It'd be kind of nice to do that with mental stats, but your mental stats kind of don't really do anything in-game anyway. So how general combat works is you'll have, let's say, 3 attacks per turn. So what'll happen is everybody will go in order, bop, bop, bop. You'll use one of your physical attacks. Bop, 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 2. Now, if you don't have any, you just have to wait that turn out. Don't really like that system. I tried doing it where everybody got all their attacks in 1 turn, and the problem was characters with decent speed would just like fire off a bunch of attacks. But one of the problems of the game is doing a parry, I believe, because there's dodge and there's parry. Dodges are just static, and not static, but you just do them. Parries have special rules where you can kind of block with attacks, but it costs those, like I said, those 3 melee attacks you have. It costs one of them to do your parry. So how it works is I roll my attack. So I'll roll my attack with all my strike bonuses. They call it strike in this game. And I get, let's say, a 16. So now I have a 16. Anything higher than a 4 hits. Flat out. If I roll higher than a 4, I hit you. Now, which means if you have a +3 strike, unless you roll a natural critical failure, you just can't miss. Which kind of works. That kind of makes sense. Because if I'm a trained fighter and I'm hitting a static target, I'm probably not going to fuck it up unless I trip on a rock or something. So now I've hit you, and you have to parry. So I rolled a 16 to hit you. So now you roll your parry, and you see if you can beat a dodge or parry, and see if you can beat a 16. If you use a parry, and generally parries will have better bonuses. And you can't parry ranged weapons unless you're a certain class. Like the warrior monk can parry arrows. But, so I try to parry, and I automatically lose that attack, and now I try to, on a d20, plus whatever my parry bonus is, I try to get a platypus. Parry the platypus? But no, I try to get a 16 or better to block that attack. Yeah, every time I hear the word parry, I think of Phineas and Ferb. Anyone who's watched it, anyone who's, I don't know, fan, I don't know what you call them, Phineas and Ferb heads, you know what I'm talking about. But then if you miss your parry, the platypus, and that attack hits you, you roll with the punch. So now you roll with the punch, and I don't remember, it's something like you try to roll against their damage, I believe, or it might be their. So it's been a while since I've played, and this rule is insane. And honestly, we all forget it exists anyway. We all just take the full hit. But then if you succeed, you take half damage instead of full damage. It's just such a very clunky system. And it's a very cumbersome and a very slow system. It's not as bad as Scion, but it's not elegant. I also don't like how armor works. Because those of you who know, in Dungeons and Dragons, you have your armor, and it just straight up adds to your ability to block attacks. Palladium armor, so like I said about that natural 4, it hits. So now if they roll 1, 2, 3, 4, it misses. Now armor might have a defense value, like leather armor might have a defense value of 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, they miss. A 5, 6, or 7, they technically hit, but they catch the armor. And the armor will have SDC. So on a 5, 6, or 7, they'll catch the leather armor and damage the leather armor and take it off that SDC. If it's above that 7, then it just goes directly to you. They bypass the armor and the damage goes directly to you. I don't like it. It's a lot of bookkeeping. 2 hit point tracks is already kind of a lot. But now you're asking me to look for 3 hit point tracks. And then I've got to go in and repair the armor. And they have a list of like, oh, you want to repair your leather armor. It's like 1 gold coin for every SDC repaired. So I go into town, and I have to pay an additional 35 gold coins just to fucking fix my armor. And it's not fun. It's just not a fun system. And after every fight, my players are like, I want to roll maintaining armor weapons to try to fix some of the SDC. And I let them like give an extra 1d4 to their armor rating with it when they succeed. I don't know if that's proper or not, but I don't care. But yeah, so then like I said, you look at like a game like Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, I just assume as part of the player's kind of natural downtime that the fighter's knocking the dings out of his armor and polishing it up and, you know, maybe replacing cut bits of leather or chain link that's busted. And then when they go to town, all the players kind of do their own things, and you just kind of assume that there's like cost of living, and I don't like to track cost of living. I don't give as much gold away as some players do. I just kind of like, okay, you get, say, 20 gold coins, but I just assume that you probably got 40, and that half of that is just going to wizards replacing their components and, you know, repairing clothes and getting some food and getting some drinks. Just kind of just generic cost of living, and part of the fighter's cost of living is repairing armor, repairing swords. But yeah, I don't like how armor works in the game. Like I said, I'll praise Palladium. I'll praise this mad, insane game when it needs praised. But I will also, you know, call it out when bad things when I think they're bad. There's a class in here. I just want to get back to classes real quick called the Diabolist. Diabolist is such a weird class. There's our Diabolist right here. See, just right there. They draw symbols on paper to do whatever. Like you can create like papers that have like exploding runes, or like you know, maybe a paper might like make an alarm sound, or and they kind of tell you like what kind of words of power you can use, like alarms, and you know, they can inflict conditions like darkness or death, or they have like a protection from evil, protection from good, that kind of stuff. And it would be so weird to play like a rune mage, I guess, because you're not like playing loose from Owl House. You're not like having a rune and you slap it. You like have a rune that explodes and you like fold it up and put it somewhere, and as somebody reads it, it'll explode in their face. And I'm like, this is such a weird OOC. And he has NPC OOCs. Like, he has an alchemist that players aren't allowed to play. Mostly because it's just, his way. every character, every monster, every NPC is built the same way that player characters are. Once again, not a fan, but he has like an alchemist OOC that just exists so that you can build shopkeepers who sell magic items. It's such a fucking weird. It's such a weird design choice. And it's so interesting to see like how 83 is when the first edition, or this is the 6th printing, but 83 was when the 2nd edition of Palladium was released. Which shows you how much it's changed from 83 to 2006, made no changes. So, dude's set in his ways. But yeah, that would be such. If I was more skilled with this system, I would love to play a Diabolist just to see how the Diabolist played. I've gone through pretty much everything in the book now. You know, there's a bunch of spells, you know, some magic items. There are some, you know, rules for magic armor and stuff, and it's all pretty basic, things like that. And he has this world, and they have a map of the world. It's my least favorite way of designing a world, this weird Pangea world, where, I don't know what this dude is. He's like a goblin. I don't know if he's a goblin or what. Maybe he's a goblin. But, like, these Pangea worlds are, I get from a design standpoint, they're really simple, but they're so boring, like, I don't know. Not a big fan of the Pan, but, like, he has a lot of lore in this book. And, actually, like, a lot of the character classes are specifically meant to function with this lore. Like, guy here, the mercenary. Like, right here. Find it. Employment for mercenary warriors. Like, it has rules for how much money you should get as a mercenary warrior for being hired as a mercenary. Like, and the soldiers, he's got, like, rules for how much soldiers you make, you know, your salary, and benefits for being a soldier. Like, you would have, specific, like, boarding you can go to, and you have to pay for boarding because, you know, you have barracks you live in. The mercenary get, like, more skills, but the soldier gets kind of more of these benefits. Oh yeah, I forgot I was going to mention this. So the Knight OOC and the Paladin OOC are identical, except the Paladin has, more restrictive, attributes required to get into it. Which means the Paladin is just a better class, because it is exactly like the Knight, except their horsemanship is better, and they have the Smite Evil, the Demon Death Blow. Like, even when you're playing a Paladin, if you want to play a Paladin, you still have to roll to see, like, because look, they have random charts to see what your family background is. Are you are you from old money? Are you from new money? But yeah, Paladin's just better. It's a little bit easier to get into. Like, the Knight requires 7 IQ instead of 10. And even the Knight has to play the Code of Chivalry. But yeah, honestly, unless you're playing specifically in this world, like, I have my own world I've created that they're playing in. So the mercenary is just better because you have better skills, because it doesn't matter that the soldier OOC can find barding, or the thief character has a thief's guild he belongs to. Because the game just assumes if you're a thief, you're part of the Thieves Guild. And, you know, you do get bonuses for it. Like, they have rules for, like, fencing items, stolen items, and things like that. But the game very much has its world it's created. And everything, even the classes, kind of slot into the world the way it's created. Which means that it requires some playing with to play with, making up your own world, creating your own stories in your own world. And like all these games, because the only Palladium games, because they're from the company's Palladium books, I have this, and I have a BattleTech book, which It's crazy. Like, the dude went like full hog in with his Battletech license. If I'm not mistaken, I believe the first book he ever wrote was TMNT and other strangeness. So he had the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles license. However, something happened in the late 80s. It's a very, very small thing. I think it might have been a cartoon. Because TMNT started as a comic. It might have been like a cartoon or something that made it. And it just... For whatever reason, this cartoon made the license too expensive to keep. And so he swapped it out to After the Bomb. Because if there's one thing Simbeta likes, it's an apocalypse. But one of the things about the Palladium books is because I think the game has enough like variance that it's not like GURPS where it's just like, here's a slop of rules in your lap, figure it out. It's a hard balance between flavor and rules. And I would rather have a game like this with a lot of flavor for me to start with and then parse off the pieces I don't want. As opposed to GURPS, which is just equations dropped in your lap. Like, there's nothing to bite into. And for players, because like, a player can come in here and be like, oh, Mercenary Warrior, that sounds really cool. I'd like to play a Mercenary Warrior. Oh, Warrior Monk? I want to play this clown with this dopey haircut? Dude, that sounds so awesome. I want a dumbass bowl cut too. Oh man, so cool. Here, so talking about how everything's random. A typical monastery will have 2d4 martial arts masters. 1d4 plus 8th level, all heads of the monastery. They will have 46 experienced monks. 1d4 plus 4th level. And so, yeah, it just, right there, you randomly roll how many monks are in your monastery. You can't just say, oh yeah, there are 3 grandmasters in this monastery. There are 20, high-level monks. There are 35 mid-level. Nope, you gotta roll it all. I mean, you don't have to, obviously, but, like... Do you see what I'm saying? But I would much rather have something like this. But one of the things is, since all Rifts games, all Palladium games use the same system, any character in this book, you can slot in. You can play a warrior monk in Ninjas and Super Spies. You can hypothetically play a paladin in what the hell's the game called? Heroes Unlimited. You can play a warlock in Rifts proper, Rifts Earth. You can play a Veritech pilot in this game if you really wanted to. Like, your DM would have to you'd either be really shitty or you'd have to find some way to put your I can't remember what they're called. The things that Mech Warrior stole from the mechs from Battletech. They might just be called Mecha, actually. I don't know much about Battletech. I think I've seen, like, 5 episodes of it total. I mean, you can play a Veritech pilot in Palladium if you really wanted to. Like, it's not going to create incompatibility with rules. It's not like trying to play a Vampire the Masquerade character in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. Honestly, even a Vampire the Masquerade character in Exalted would be kind of weird to play. But yeah, no, in Palladium, like, yeah, no, slot whatever pieces of the game you want in. So yeah, I don't think it's a good game. I think it's an interesting game. And it is filled to the brim with, like, kind of cool ideas. One of the most insane things, because, like I said, one of my friends, she's playing a Mind Mage, which is probably the most powerful class in the game, in Palladium Fantasy. And we discovered a spell called Psionics. It's a spell. So Psionics don't get... PPE is your mana pool for spellcasting. It is your potential psionic energy. Now, do you use that for your psionics? No. If you're a psionicist, a mind mage, or an empath, you give up your potential psionic energy for inner strength points. So yeah, no. You do not use your potential psionic energy for psionics. Which I guess why it's potential psionic energy and not actual psionic energy. But it's, like I said, Madman. Like, there's a psionics called Induce Sleep. It allows you to put a willing target to sleep. It's literally just a shot of melatonin. Like, if there's any resistance, the psionic spell. It's a spell. They're spells. They're fucking spells. I don't give a shit. Come at me, bro. I don't fucking care. Psionics are spells. But it's the shot. It's like the if you watch my last video, the Scion 1, first edition one with the pregnancy spell. What use is this? Somebody tell me, Kevin, Simbeta, tell me which one of your players used that psionic in a meaningful way. Somebody tell me in a meaningful way where that power comes from. Because like I said, it's only in a target that's letting you do it. I guess if you jump through hoops, you could hypnotize the target into letting you do induced sleep. But at this point, the wizard spell Cloud of Slumber is just, I don't know. It's insane. But yeah, for real, if you know of a way this spell would be actively effective, I would love to hear it because that's insane. But yeah, I like this book. I like to get my campaign finished so I can move on to something else. It's I think there's a lot of like old things in it. Said that the blocking system is, I don't care for it. I just don't care for it. I've been on here for about an hour and I want to go play video games. But anyway, so the game's a gamist game, and it makes no qualms that that's what it is. It is. The game is a game. It's meant to be a game, and it's meant to be played like a game. It's not trying to convince you that the game is all about narrative and the rules get out of the way like a lot of these games do. Nope, it's a game. You play it like a game. After that, I would say it's probably a simulationist because of how many elements of the game are actively interacting with the world that's created. Not just the races in the back of the book, the monstrous races, like your goblins here, your little goblins, but like the way the mercenaries, they straight up tell you how much money as a mercenary you should make per mission, or soldiers, how much money you should make per month as a soldier, and the rules you have for barracks. Warlocks, they tell you, you can talk to elementals, and they interact with you in this way because this is how elementals work. Elementals, for example, if you call fire elemental and tell it to go get somebody, it's just going to walk over, burning whatever's in its path, and grab the person, scorching them, and bring the scorched ashes back to you. Because they don't understand the nature of the human world. They are elemental. They see and view and feel and function as their elemental force. And like the rules on here for warlocks and how they interact with their elemental forces are very strict. They're very paladin-like. Because if you are a dick to, like, if you're a fire warlock and you're a dick to fire, even water or earth elementals, they'll just take your power from you. You just don't want to have your power anymore. And like, let's say you're a warlock and you encounter an elemental and you have no choice but to fight. You kind of have to just be like, hey, look, you have to understand that I have to do this. We have to fight. You kind of have to come to this, like, mutual understanding that we don't have any choice but to fight. But it's not personal. It's not a matter of hatred. It's just, this is just kind of the way the fates have aligned ourselves. And so, yeah, no, the game absolutely has a world in its head. And the much of the game's elements want you to play in the world as the world is. And lastly, it is a narrativist game. Not to say it's not not to say that narrativism isn't possible. Not to say that the game doesn't encourage narrativism. It's just when prioritizing what the game's kind of meant to do, the idea of creating these long-term narratives. There's a spell that induces slumber in a willing target. Like, that's just there as a mechanical weird thing, and that's just there as a bit of storytelling. That's not there to induce long-term narrativism. I said, mercenaries, you're supposed to pay them permission. Like, that's not inducing a long-term story. But as far as being a role-playing game goes, the game's very good at what it's trying to do. It's, you know, it is gamist, then simulationist, then narrativist, but the game is a functional game. It's not like, once again, I bring GURPS up. GURPS is just a collection of equations. It doesn't feel like a cohesive game to me. But Palladium is. I suggest going to Palladium's website and joining their newsletter. They actually have, a lot of times, good deals. I haven't actually, because I've only been a member for a very short period of time. They have, I'm probably going to, now that Christmas is over, go on and see. But they'll have deals where they'll be like, hey, this particular book is like 45% off. And it's very cool. And I hear Simbeta has a very good with this fan base. He really has a lot of care and love for the people who want to play his games, and I think that's really cool. Like I said, it kind of hurts me to say it because of that, but there is a number of games that I would rather play more than a Rifts game. But honestly, if you can get a hold of a couple of these books, I would suggest it just for some of the really kind of interesting ideas for it, and some of just Simbeta's opinions on gaming as a whole. Like I said, the neutral one, here's a story in here about he fucked with his wife, who was a priestess, and her in character, she kind of was like, ah, damn it, goddess I worship. And he's like, oh, nope, you lose your power. And very old school, very, very old school mindset. Once again, personally don't care for it, but it's fascinating to read, because he very much tells you, like, in the best way possible. He shows you his whole ass. He shows you exactly why he made this decision and exactly how he thinks that you should play role-playing games. But unlike Hackmaster, which has this very air of antagonism to it, he's just very much like, hey, this is how I think you should play games. And it's just fascinating, because like I said, these books, this book is almost as much of a vlog of his opinions on role-playing as it is an actual game. And I think that's really cool. But anyway, a little over an hour, so hopefully I'll see you guys, I'm sure I will. I'll see you guys next week, and we'll see what I'm talking about. I'm a gamer, so I worship the RNG gods, and like literally, like what I'll do to decide a topic is so if you want any topics you want me to talk about, I'll add them to the pile. I have a top pile of topics right here, all the different stuff I'm gonna do. I literally just shuffle these index cards and I pull one at random. So if you notice any weird inconsistencies about like two reviews in a row, and then maybe no reviews for a while, it is because when I discuss topics, it is entirely based on what the RNGs, and if you know, you know, the RNGs decide. But anyway, I'll see you next time, and we'll see what I'm rambling about when I get there. But I'll see you guys, and have fun.